back to speaking to personal experiences and what people have gone through or seen in their life. That's just like saying that if somebody saw their mother deal with a man that cheated on them all the time, but they've been in a 25, 30-year relationship, that's how they view a good relationship. That's how they view a commitment. That's how they view long term. And so we can't dictate how people perceive their own emotions and how they, how they react to them. And my last point on this before Trust speaks is we are talking about getting married at a young age and we're talking about statistics and we're talking about data. So I did the due diligence to go and look up on NIH.gov the statistics, and it shows that studies have found that younger couples, especially those married in their early into mid 20s, have a higher likelihood of divorce compared to those who marry later on in life. And that speaks to the perspective that regardless of your experience or regardless of how good your relationship might be, that might not be the case for everybody else. And then we also don't know how that it can affect somebody long term in their relationship long term. So
Well,
go ahead, Trey.
So,
the
all right,
reason why that's
hold on, Sweeney. Hold on a second, Sweeney. All right, so Casey, you just read something off, but that's only part of it, right? So there's a couple places, the University of Utah, there's Pew Research, and there's a few places, and what they
Yeah, I
refer
read from
to is
NIH.gov.
gotcha. So there's what they call a Goldilocks zone, right? And the first part of it is absolutely correct. If you were to marry in your early 20s, then yes, you are likely to divorce higher than as if you didn't. But there's also data that shows if you are married after 35, then you also have a higher risk of getting divorced than if you would. So the Goldilocks zone is technically late 20s to early 30s, and that's it. So that's if you're talking about that. If it goes way higher on either side of the spectrum, if you get married younger or older, so you'll get the same result. So either way, you're still within your late 20s, early 30s. So that's that
Right.
part of it. But
So,
one of
go
the
ahead,
main
sir.
things I wanted to say is that it's almost like when we were watching a lady sitting in a car earlier in the video, and she just had no clue. She was so desperate she wanted to ask white women what was up. It's like but the men could pick apart what was wrong with her, right? We could see like, ugh, yeah, I could see what's up with her. Like we already know, like, yeah, she gonna lose. We see the same thing in the rhetoric a lot of times on these panels, and the results that you yield are pretty much matching the demeanor in most cases. Unfortunately, that's just how it is. People who were typically married speak one way and have likely spoken that way prior to marriage, and people who aren't have a different idea. But a lot of them sound the same, at least to us men on the panel. Or I won't even include the other guys if they don't want to be, but I'll say myself. To me, uh, pretty much sound the same. Most of the women who are not married say the same things. They say, "Yo, you should wait. I'm worried about my career, or why do you think that's gonna like?"
Yeah. And also, women don't want to get married when they're younger. And then by the time they want to get married, let's say at 35, 45, the men they want to get married to now want younger women. And then they complain that why do you guys leave us and then go for younger women? But it's like they wanted you when you were younger and you didn't want to get married because you wanted to pursue your career. Now you're 45 because you got a house and a mortgage. You think you're ready, but it's like, okay, you gained the house, you gained the career, you gained the money, but those are not the things the man was looking for. Those are the things you're looking for in a man, but the man that you want, he didn't want you to have a career. He wanted you to be able to cook. You don't know how to cook. He wanted you to be feminine. You're not a feminine woman because you got all the money and you're a boss babe and you want that power couple shit. It's like they attain all the things that men don't want, and then they want men to accept those things. So it's a double-edged sword waiting to get married when you're older.
Factsmen, we know what doesn't. It's simple. Men articulate what it is that they want and what they expect. Women want to get with these men, but
They don't listen.
are not able to compete or willing to compete or fulfill what this man is asking
Mm.
for. So, how is it that you're going to get the result of marriage when you're not willing to do it and you want to play by your rules
Yeah.
when it's actually competitive? That doesn't work.
They want men to just accept them the way they are. and it's never going to work. Especially men of means. Now, maybe for Boogie, if they want to come and negotiate with me and make me like them for their masculinity and for having a house, Boogie might do it. But if you want to do it, the real rich guys, okay. But if you're gonna wait for Boogie to become really rich to accept you for who you are and accept you for your house, it's gonna be tough.
I agree, Trev. I know this is very competitive out here. Trust me. I agree 100%. That's why I embrace the pain, because it's a lesson learned behind every situation that don't go right, as long as I'm taking accountability. So that's my advice to y'all ladies that's going out there and deciding, like, because when most women say I'm putting my job first, in reality, I think that's our way of protecting ourselves, just like men do with, choosing not to settle down, knowing damn well he want a wife. Because once that woman don't be that, you be trying to dog out. You feel me? But I do think that's a way that women try to protect themselves, is with their careers.
So
Sometimes.
let me
Not
ask you. So let me
always.
ask you then,
I
Dot.
don't
Could,
think
could I
that
ask
was
you then, Dot?
Yeah,
So
go ahead.
let me ask you this, Dot. That method, do you think it's useful, or do you think it's more to women's detriment?
It's not working.
I think it depends. It depends. I think if a woman is stable,
Really?
then I feel like if a woman is stable, it's detriment. If it's stable, it's detriment to her. But if she's not stable, I don't think that. I don't think that's a good idea. I don't think that's.
I think it can be very beneficial to your relationship. I grew up in a two-parent home, and my father taught me that a woman should go to college, pursue an education, and if you want a career, you can have a career, because we speak about generational wealth and we speak about how you can be an attribute to the man that you're dealing with. And a woman, a lot of times, that isn't focused or goal oriented on having an education or having a career, she can be a detriment to her husband. So I think it can be very beneficial to make those some priorities.
And I could kind of agree with that too, because I do feel like a lot of women who be mainly gold diggers and stuff, like, if you notice, them be the women that be thirsty not to work or bring any type of substance. But I don't agree that you should, what you were saying, Trev, just avoid it with work. If you want to get married, go out there, do the work, make the mistakes, talk to people who are in marriage, do something active, if that's what your end goal is. And I think, if the opportunity comes up and you see somebody, get to know him, give him a chance if he seems,
I'll go as far as saying this. I'm
Sound
gonna go as far as saying this. If you are not built to balance a marriage and school or working in the beginning, you ain't built for marriage, because you're going to run into a lot of trials and tribulations. Marriage isn't that easy, right? There's a lot of things that are going to have to deal with. There's a lot of decisions you're going to have to make. You're going to be constantly bombarded with challenges. Raising children, that's a different ball game, and a lot of people are doing that by themselves. I understand it, but it makes it easier with the parent, but it's still tough. There's a lot of decisions you got to make. There's going to be places where you want to be located, right? And when you start having to put children before you and living in neighborhoods because they have a good school system, making tough choices, whether we should buy this house or that house, can we afford this? Damn, the car broke down again. Like, there's a bunch of things that just happen. Life is going to happen to you. So
I don't have an issue with women working and having a career. They can pursue all the careers they want. They can pursue all the degrees they want, because that's the excuse women say. They're like, I don't want to get into a relationship if I don't have something of my own, or like I want to have my own purpose and things like that. That's fine. But you know what the issue is? Even when they pursue those careers, even when they make all this money, even when they buy a house, do you know what happens when they find a man? Can anybody guess? They still want the man to pay all the bills. So it's like, okay, what was the point of you working and pursuing all these careers and making all this money if you're still going to need Boogie to be the provider? Like, that doesn't make sense. I would understand if they said, hey, listen, the reason I'm pursuing my career is when I'm ready to get married, me and my husband, we're going to go 50-50. I'm going to use some of the money I've been making to pay 50% of the bills, and he's going to do the same. No, but even when they have a career, they still want a provider. So that never makes sense to me. So what was the point of you pursuing your career if you're not going to use, if you're not going to put together your money and the man's money for both of you to invest and build a family, that doesn't make any sense to me. That's why, for me, once a woman says, I'm choosing a career over a man, or I'm pursuing a career because I don't want to get into a relationship with and I have nothing to my name, it doesn't make sense to me, because they all still want men to be providers. So it's like, what's the point? But anyway, man, shout out to Lapif. All right. All right, let me do the next video. All right, let me show. What's up, Mark? I haven't seen you in a while, man. What's up, Mark? Mark Cruz. He says, as a single bachelor, I rather pay for play. Mark is not playing with these women out here. You guys gotta see. And I'm not, I mean, I'm not mad at Mark, because every man pays. Shout out to CGA. Mark, I'm not mad at you. Mark says, as a single bachelor, I'd rather pay for play with the women in Colombia every 90 days than to spend a dime on a single modern woman. I mean, I'm not mad at you, because either way, whether it's a relationship, whether it's marriage, whether it's dates, whether it's pay for play, you're going to pay. So you got to choose what price you're willing to pay. I'm not mad at you, man. I mean, hey, listen. And that's the thing, like these days, women attack men like passport bros and, you know, men who go to different countries and things like that. They attack those guys talking about, oh, they do pay for play. But it's like, okay, you don't want him to go out of the country to a different country to find women from a different country, but then you want him to stay here, and then he has to take it on expensive dates. You feel me? So that never makes sense to me.